Hey guys, welcome to the Centre Bounce. Today I'll be talking you through how I did this week, and as you can tell by the thumbnail and the title, it was not pretty. Hey guys, yes, round one was brutal, absolutely brutal. All of the good players, all of these content creators did really poorly this week compared because of a lot of issues that really came upon their teams. A lot of it out of their control, some of it in our control, and I am no exception. I think I was the worst though, among the worst. I think Steve from SDS Supercoach maybe did a bit worse than I did. I think if I saw on Twitter, but my word, it was a very difficult week. A lot of poor decisions, sometimes not even listening to my own advice. But guys, it's still only round one. You look at the team that won this week, that came first. It is Garbaggio. Don't worry about it. Round one, round two, these early rounds are always the ones that are going to be really astronomical. And just because you're off to a good start now doesn't mean you're 100% going to be locked in for a high finish. It's how you trade from here on out, how you salvage the situation, take advantage of some catastrophes along the way. You take advantage of that crisis to upgrade somewhere else. That's it. The path you're walking now is your own. You don't have to follow anyone. You don't have to follow any templated teams. It's your way or the highway. This is how I did. I'll start you off with my overall score. Yep, I didn't crack 1900. I didn't crack 2000. It was a very sad week for me. I'm ranked 74,660 for the round, but giving people a chance, giving people a handicap, a head start, and I'll come flying back with a wet sail. Don't you worry about it, ladies and gentlemen. The path, the fight is still on here. Centre bounce, Joe. You watch. We're going to have some good trades coming up because there's a lot to work with. And I had Doherty, the VC on Doherty. I'm seeing everyone going 108, 107. Not many big captaincy scores this week. In the morning of, I had the captaincy on Wits. Then I thought to myself, no, I have far too much respect for the Sydney midfield. I think these guys are more than capable of sharking their fair share of hitouts from Wits. I'm not sure if Wits is going to go as big as I initially thought he was going to go. So you know what? I'm going to back in my man, my legend that is Laird. And he did something that is the stuff of nightmares. It's you pinch yourself. Is this real? Or is this a nightmare? How? I had a Wits captaincy in the morning that decided to flip and go back on Laird. What could have been? What could have been? I ended up on Laird's 50, his lowest score since before Jesus Christ was born. Unbelievable. I have no idea how this was possible. Laird dropped the 50 and it wasn't even tagged. It is unbelievable. This sort of has obviously was a major impact on my score, as was having Jones on field with his 5. Look, he wasn't killing it either. He got injured in the second quarter and he was not doing well at all. But you can always build into the game. Having him get injured at that point and subbed out cemented me to having a terrible score there with his 5. Doherty was sensational. I wish, hindsight should have taken his 108, but I think he really worked into the game well. Started slow first half and then really showed us what he can do. This man is a legend. Ridley, he started off amazingly well. Was at the game. I'd lost my voice. I'd actually recorded this yesterday on Sunday night, but for some reason the recording didn't work, and so here we are today doing it again. But yesterday was sensational. Ridley was a gun. Loved seeing him even push forward and kick the goal. 107. Look, he definitely performed a lot better than 107 showed. He scored the majority of his points early in the game when it was still up for grabs. And then the second half, really, it was all Essendon. We absolutely shellacked, absolutely dominated the Hawks, and it was so good to watch. And we're top of the ladder, baby. End the season here. End it now. That's it. Stop the clock. We're top of the ladder. First time since 2013. Let's go. But yeah, love the Jones pick, the Ridley pick. Jimby, he is a gun, absolute gun, tackling machine. A lot of his points from tackles, and he's just got that big body ready to go. Probably the Eagles' best midfielder already. Connor McKenna, look, Essendon supporters, we sort of knew what we are going to see from McKenna, which is why it was really important. I was really bullish on him. You need to have him in your starting team, I thought. And he showed us what he can do. Do I expect him to go 93 every week? Probably not, but I think he's definitely very capable and one that I thought was well and truly a safer fieldable option than a guy like Wilmot, who gave us his 50 on the wing as predicted. Constable's 56 should have been higher, if not for terrible kicking in even worse conditions. My word, that was slippery. It was footy on ice. It was a bar of soap, and what kicks us were not being able to execute it properly. So I forgive Constable's 56 here. Concerned about his job security though, but we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we can hold on to Nazaya, he can bounce back and get defensive DPPs so we can swing him there and cover him in that spot. Cowan, he looked really good. He looked really good for the Blues. I thought he did some great things and showed why they rate him so highly. And I think he's going to maintain his spot. Subbed out with cramps. It wasn't an injury. He didn't do a hammy. It was just cramps. So it was good for the run. He got subbed out 3/4 time. I think he performed better than the 38 suggests. And I think he's going to maintain his spot. So we've got some reliable bench cover, I think. Laird, as I mentioned, the 50, my word. Look, I'm going to still hold him this week. You got to have some sort of bounce back, but he's going to drop a lot in price. And holding him this week will also allow me to assess the competition, assess which of the mid-prices or primos that I need to get in, and then I'll decide if I trade him out or not. But for now, I'm holding on to my boy. He has to make it up for us somehow. The Bond, look, he started off great and really faded for some reason. Similar to the Bulldogs, it really faded. Melbourne were well and truly on top, the better side, and Bont just didn't perform. Really, McRae started to come on a bit better than him in the end. So obviously, you still have to back him in. He's a gun, and most midfielders that are contested in nature don't really hit the ground running at the start of the season. They have to build up, and it's really hot. High temperature. As we get into the colder winter months, you start to see them really start to shine. But this dude, he doesn't need time. He doesn't need anything. He's ready to go right here, right now. And this guy is actually going to be my captain this week, I'm pretty sure. He's playing against West Coast. Yeah, I'm just going to stick it right here on him. Very good. And the Bont is playing against St Kilda, and he loves to play at Marvel Stadium. So this is going to be my combo moving forward. Green, what a legend. Bellissimo. He's a pick you simply must have for his price. Always locked in. Setters, my pod, super proud of Setters. He really worked his way into the game. He started slow, not very good. But as his engine started to get going, he started to get a lot of CBAs. He had over 70% CBAs. I just knew. You knew that this guy, big-bodied mid, up against Newcomb and Warple, we needed to have big guys in there, and he had a great performance. Tackles, pressure acts. He really marks. He gave us a lot around the ground as well. So very happy with Setterfield. He's done everything that I expected him to do. I called that he can go 100, 105. And he wasn't 100 at the end of the game, but then they took a point off him. It's all right. I'll forgive him. Hopper, he didn't pass the eye test in the second practice game, and he didn't pass the eye test in this game either. He looked slow, he looked sluggish, and his heat map was disgusting. The worst heat map I've ever seen for an inside mid in my life. He is. I'm really considering getting rid of him, not simply because I'm not looking at the score, because his score was better than Wangani Miller's. Okay. Now, if I was simply basing my decision on score alone, then I'd be keeping him and I'd be trading out Nazaya. But passing the eye test for me is really important. And I think Nazaya, he had the role. It's just unfortunate for him. He had a few of his kicks were coming off, he had a poor disposal night. But I can understand why. The way Freo were playing, it was disgusting the way they were playing that possession football in their back half. When you don't get the ball a lot, you can get cold in terms of your disposal. So I forgive Nazaya a lot. And he wasn't playing in from all of his kick-ins. So Anthony Caminiti, please, my friend, please, my brother, tell Nazaya, you got to step out of the box. You got to step out of the goal square if you want the point to count as a play-on kick-in. So pass that on to him, and I'm sure we'll all be very happy about him. I'm backing in Nazaya. Hopper, though, the inside mid, that didn't look good at all. For me, I'm not going to go with him, to be completely honest with you. Maybe, it was a low stoppage game. Sure, yep, I understand that. But he didn't look good. Didn't pass the eye test. Unlike Taranto, I think Taranto is the much better contested ball winner than he is. And he doesn't have the speed to link up an outside play. So for me, I think I'm going to be trading out Hopper this week. Warple, he was a late in for me. I saw the conditions weren't the best. I was tossing and turning between whether or not I fielded McKenzie here or Warple. But then I thought, you know what? The conditions suit an inside mid more than it would suit an outside player, given that it was raining in Melbourne. And technically speaking, I was correct because Warple outscored him. But I needed both of them on the field, not just Warple. I needed both of them. So, McKenzie is one that I have to get in as soon as possible. He was someone that I was planning on getting in always, but I just thought, you know what, we'll go for the points, try and go for the player with the higher points. I needed points on him, technically speaking, so I achieved what I wanted to achieve, but unfortunately, not as much as I would have wanted. Ashcroft, he start difference, bracket game. He looked like he was king of the world, and it looked like the rising star was a sure thing. Not anymore. I'm unsure if he's actually going to be close. He might not even be second when you've got the likes of Cam McKenzie and Sheasel, who is also going to be someone that I trade in. These two are ahead of him, I reckon. Look, obviously, I'm going to give him another week. It just sucks that he's going to be up against Melbourne, who are obviously a very tough midfield. But Ashcroft, 55 points. We need him to go over 60. We need him to go over 60 for him to make us the money. And if he doesn't next week, then I wouldn't be against you trading him out. Yes, he might have the job security, but he has to start scoring if you want him to make money. We don't want a guy who's over $200,000 scoring us 50 points a game. It's not ideal. Hollins had a very good game. As I was talking about Cowan, he also had a very respectable game, playing on that wing, a lot of unrewarded running. He did so much good work, shepherding and stuff. So I think his job security is also very good. It's going to be a slow burn. I'm not expecting him to make a lot of, we just need one spike game out of him. Unsure whether he'll actually get it or not. But he's someone that I think if he keeps scoring in the way he's doing, he'll make us his money. Baker, I really don't want him on the field. He played a role. Hopefully Bevo doesn't start swinging the axe after what happened last week. Fingers crossed. Chesser, my word, this is not a good pick. But he's highly rated. He's highly rated by the Eagles. And he had he's obviously had an interrupted preseason, as we know. He's someone that I think should be able to. He was named. If he's going to get named again next week or this round, then I think his job security is going to be good. Not sure how serious the Eagles think they are to contending this year, and they really need to pump games into him and his type of player, like Noah Long, who also was very good. I thought it was a sensational player for them, and 63 points was great. Very happy with him, and he's got the DPP, obviously, which is very handy. Wits. So I should have picked him. He had the Mickey Mouse matchup against Laddams in the wet. So stupid of me. I should have backed my gut and not overthink it. That's the thing. You can overthink things, and I didn't follow the advice, which is to back your gut. I chickened out, went with Laird, and got absolutely punished. Same thing with Marshall. The darts combination outscored him this week. But Marshall solo rucking is a great ruckman, and he is a very high scorer. If he is solo rucking, and with the news that Campbell was not in fact named, I simply had to go with Marshall for his price. It is too much to refuse. Dunkley started like a house on fire. Looked like he was on track for like 160 at some point, and him, like his Bulldogs brethren, really cooled down very quickly. And gee whiz, Port, Rosie and Port, they put them to the sword. Horn Francis went absolutely bonkers. He's one that you have to keep an eye on. I'm not 100% sold. I thought that was his career best game. Whether or not he can back that up again, it has to obviously remains to be seen. But this week is a very big week for him and Port. They won at Adelaide Oval. They're now coming to Melbourne this week to play against Collingwood. Massive, massive supporter base on the biggest ground in the world. Love to see how he deals with that pressure, the big lights, prime time, middle of the day on Saturday. And he played at Adelaide Oval compared to the MCG. Bigger ground, and we get to see whether or not he, as an inside mid, will give us the same sort of performance that we got from Hopper at the MCG. So we'll have a look and see if he dominates there again. He might actually become a must-have, and he's got DPP mid-forward status, so he might be one that we have to get in. What else was there? Rosie, very classy player, no complaints, very highly owned as well, so wouldn't be complaining about that. Taranto, look, he's a butcher, we know this, but this is sort of what we expected from him. If you expected anything above 110 plus, then I think you underestimate his ability to butcher the ball. He is a hack of a kick, and he doesn't pass. He just bombed the ball forward. He is a clearance machine, and we picked him knowing that we're going to get this sort of scoring out of him, and for that price, again, it is too good to refuse. Errol Goulden showed that he is not just a flash in the pan type of player. When you're scoring that big in a preseason game against Carlton, who are a very strong team, then you know he's the real deal. And he's absolutely backed it up this week in very terrible conditions. Love Errol Goulden. Very happy with this pick. We get to these two. These two have disappointed me so much. I was in a situation where I didn't want to field Sheasel because I wasn't sure if he's going to be playing forward. Because if he's playing forward, he's going to score doo-doo. He's going to do very, very poorly for me. And I didn't want Flanders because I knew that Flanders was going to have a very tough ask playing against the Swans in those terrible conditions as an outside player. And if not for those 2 goals that he got, he would have absolutely done abysmally as well. So I was left with Fife against St Kilda, who a lot of people had were going to be, the underdogs, and that the Dockers should get the ascendancy, and Fife should have a lot of opportunities to kick goals, and he looked really, really good in the preseason games as well. So it's like, oh boy, I went against my own advice. I picked a forward who was playing forward, and I was burnt for it. I was hoping I could get some quick cash out of him, but I knew that if there was any other option that presented itself, I'd love to jump off him. Unfortunately for me, I was at the beach at the time when the news came out that Sheasel was going to play at half back. A lot of people switched on. They saw, oh my God, he's lining up with the defenders. Quickly get him in. Unfortunately, I was out getting tanned out on Safety Beach in Dramana, and absolutely came back to find that Sheasel was absolutely popping off. And I missed him. And I could have freed myself so much money and scored a lot more points than both of these guys combined. Bruin, my word, he looked so good. He is so, so good on the ball. He passes the eye test. He's a great, great player. The problem and the question mark over him was always the role, whether or not he was going to get it. And we thought that after seeing him in the preseason game that he was well and truly good enough to do so. And we saw no Bows named as well. And we thought, oh, this is excellent. But, Parfit was the sub. And it almost like is a red flag in and of itself in that Parfit is going to play in the middle. Who was going to be subbed out? If not for Stewart getting injured, it is very likely that Bruin himself was going to get subbed out. And his time on ground was abysmal. So low. He was the 3rd worst time on ground for Geelong. Only, I think, worse than or just about as bad as Dangerfield and the subpar fit. So it is not a good sign, unfortunately. And as soon as Parfit came, he was pushed out to the defensive side on the wing. So again, and he had clangers there, he had turnovers. It was very poor disposal. It was nowhere near it, and that's not his game. His game has to be on the ball, and it's no surprise that when he was off the ball, Collingwood well and truly got on top. It's very worrying. It is very worrying for me to see that, and it just goes to show that preseason games are not all what they seem to be. And that's something that I'm going to be taking with me next year when I start. So both of these guys are on the chopping block for me this week. I can't have both of them score me such mediocre scores, and it's really nerve wracking because he could start really well. A guy like Braun could start really well, be on fire, 40 points at halftime, and then only to score 18 more points or less than that, 13 more points for the second half is really abysmal. It's very sad. And then you got Fergus Green, who did a good job off very limited supply. I think he presented well. I think the great goal, 1-on-2 against us, and he's someone that you expect to have some fluctuating games, playing as a key forward for a really poor side. Let's just say it, who's rebuilding. You never know. You're just hoping for an occasional game where Hawthorn all of a sudden just turn it on, really take the game on with speed, able to win it out of the middle, and give Green some first use, some opportunity quickly out of the middle would be really good, and that would allow him to do some good things. In terms of what my trades are going to be, I definitely have to boost. And I recommend you guys to really trade heavily as well in your opening week, because I don't think you'll be able to do all that you want to do next week if you don't boost up. So as I said, Bruin and Fife, they are both on the chopping blocks. I don't want to see their faces anywhere near my side anymore. And this could be premature. It could be premature, but I am going to get rid of Hopper this week, I think. These are all subject to change, of course. Just finished off work, as you can see, still in my work clothes. Been a busy day. But from what I'm feeling right now, having us obviously, calmed down, recovered from the mayhem and the chaos that was the weekend, I'm thinking at this point in time that I am going to be getting the guy that I mentioned I was always going to get. I just didn't expect him to score so well. Cam Mackenzie, my word, this kid is an absolute jet. I was thinking in the wet conditions for an outside player, it was going to be difficult, but he's a class act. He is so good. So I'm going to get Cam Mackenzie in, and that means that I'm going to get 2 forwards. Now, these 2 forwards that I'm going to get are Stephen Coniglio. We were all on him in the preseason, and we all very quickly got off him because of the emergence of Goulden and his knock. But I think we did him hard done by. I think this guy is so talented, so good. We know what an amazing player Cogs is. And I think that we might have disrespected him by jumping off him so quickly. He showed that he's got that role, and Kingsley is using him in the role that is best for him. He's accumulating the ball a lot. He's being very impactful with the ball as well. And now that Kelly is out, Perryman is out, you expect him to still be well and truly relied upon to be there side by side with Green. And you expect Callahan to also be in there as well to sort of pinch hit. But Coniglio, I think he's an absolute gun. He's going to be top 6. And he's playing against West Coast this week. So I expect him to go bananas. You saw what LDU did against the Eagles. So I'm expecting Coniglio to do something similar. He is really good. And if he's going to do as well as I think he's going to do, on top of what he's done this week, with his 143, he's going to be really hard to get in afterwards, right? So it's going to be really exciting. I think I'm looking to shore up my team, improve my team structure, whilst also in terms of the quality of the players, as well as really bounce back with some big points. And because of that, there's also, of course, the guy that I missed out on because I was on the beach. You can't have a day off at all when you're when you're in this business, and so it's got to be Harry Sheasel. Sheasel has to come in. absolute superstar of the competition, leading for the Rising Star. So this is the sort of team that I've got at the moment now, heading into the next week. Yes, it's a boost, but you got to be using your boost early and aggressively, I think, to make sure that you've got all of the best players that are going to be scoring you your points. Callahan is one that I really considered getting in instead of a McKenzie, but I am prioritizing getting the likes of Cornelio and Sheasel this week more than anything because of the massive points that they can get me. Callahan, he could do really well playing on the wide expanses of Optus Stadium. He could do really well. I just don't know how I can get him in at this point this week without using, for example, Rory Laird, who I am expecting to really bounce back this week. They lost on his watch at home, and he played terribly. He only had 2 tackles for that game. Yes, it was really hot that game. I understand, but that didn't stop, Cogs, Callahan, and their GWS Giants from really still putting in the hard yards and getting over the top of them. I think Laird and this was a terrible score for him. You never should expect this to happen again. The fact that it happened in the first place is already still shocking. I can't believe that's happened. I'm looking at it right now, and I still can't believe what I'm seeing. So I'm backing him in to have a really massive week next week at home against the Tigers. If he doesn't, he's 100% going to be out. If he does do well, look, he still might go out. If he doesn't score like a 140 or a 130, his price is going to tank a lot. Could be shorting Laird, to be honest, selling him high and then buying him low a bit later. If it means that, because what this does allows me to still have a lot of money in him that I can then cash in next week if I have to look and see that Dacos well and truly is the real deal. He was one that I considered bringing in this week, but he's up against Port, and Port are historically really good at limiting the output from halfback players, from players who play at halfback. So I'm going to have a look and see how Dacos does if he scores really well. And there's this talk that Hinkley won't just allow Dacos to do his own merry thing. I've heard something somewhere that they might send Pal Pepper to him, and Pal Pepper, as we know, is a very bad man. So I'm thinking not going with Dacos, who might cop a tag, playing against a very strong opposition, and I'm prioritizing getting the points. So it also allows me. I'm not committing to any other of the mid prices, like a Zeeble, for example. I do want to see how he performs again this week, leaving room for in case I have to get a Horn Francis if he backs it up this week. So there's a few players that are really good that I obviously want to have another look at. There's nothing worse than trading them in and only finding out that they're duds. By doing this, we're getting McKenzie and Sheasel. These are must-have players who are both fieldable options as well, and also enables me to get Cornelio, who's a top 6 for sure. And I expect them to go massive this week as well. So it is, I think, the best use of my trades and money at this point was also setting myself up to use Laird as this. I can liquidate Laird, get rid of him, and upgrade elsewhere next week. So, guys, that was how I did this week. It was rough, it was brutal, it was tough, and I know that was the case for the vast majority of you guys out there. But I just want to tell you this. Round 1 is the biggest aberration. There is so much scope, so much, it's very easy for you to bounce back. Simply having the right captaincy option this week could have done an amazing thing for you. Same thing with me. If I had Wits as captain, despite missing some really important players like Sheasel and McKenzie, I still would have been able to crack the 2,000 this week. So it's important that you take it easy, you relax. It's a long season. Get aggressive with your trades. There's a lot of upside in these selections, okay? It's not simply having a good starting team isn't the be-all, end-all. It's how you trade from this point on. So, guys, please stay tuned. Here at the Centre Balance, we're pumping up the content for you, and we'll be showing you every step of the way this season because we here at the Centre Balance do the hard work so that you don't have to.